It's one thing to make a mark on a canvas that's 2 feet high. It's quite another thing to try to recreate that mark on a canvas that's 17 feet high. My name is Jana Liptak. I was the lead fabricator for Mary Heilmann Long Line at the Whitney Museum on the 5th floor. The original painting by Mary Heilmann is 8 feet long by 2 feet high, and the walls of the Whitney were 90 feet wide by 17 feet high. The lead fabricator's job is to figure out how to translate that reasonably sized painting onto these huge walls, being authentic to her vision and making sure it was robust enough to last the 9 months of the exhibition cycle. Taking something small and making it large, there's a few options. You can use a projector, you can use a grid. Because of the size of the space I was working in and the shape of the space, I chose to use something called a scribble grid, which is a technique that is often employed in street art or giant outdoor murals. So the basic technique is you draw symbols, scribbles across the surface, and then take photos and superimpose the source image onto the scribble, and that gives you corresponding points to guide your mural. If you were using a traditional square grid, any point of intersection where the source image intersects with a line gives you the information you need to translate the picture. And it's exactly the same with the scribble grid. It's a little easier with the scribble grid because you don't have to count squares. You can just look for the symbol and pick those points out where a line on Mary's painting might intersect with a symbol. It's really easy to figure out where you are. So we did the scribble grid, and then we did a line drawing on top of that. We did the grid in chalk, so we could just wipe it out. And then on top of the line drawing, started to do our painting. We did an underpainting. We basically painted the whole wall green to mimic Mary's techniques because it was clear that she had done a green underpainting for her original painting and then came back over with the white on top with lots of homemade brushes and brooms to try to get the sense of Mary's brushstrokes on a massive scale. Mary's original painting is on plywood, and you can actually see the wood grain in the sort of washed out green areas. And so we used acrylic mural paint, we watered it down and did sort of washes with the wood color to suggest the wood grain coming through. And she used a phthalo green, which is a color that is changeable. The hues sort of shift. So we did some washes in blues and ochres too. So once we were happy with the greens, we moved on to the whites. And the challenge there was less about matching colors and much more about matching this hand. Mary has such a distinct hand, and that's really a big part of what her paintings are about. So we were taking paintbrushes and screwing them together in order to make a paintbrush wide enough to suggest the brush strokes that Mary had originally created. And we were putting our paintbrushes on poles, and we were also using push brooms. We were experimenting with a lot of different materials in order to get something that felt authentic. You get a sore neck looking up, looking down, looking up, looking down, stepping away, getting close. You're just constantly refining, stepping back, saying, oh no, the shape of that brushstroke isn't quite right. We're going to go back and adjust it. The opacity isn't quite right there. We're going to go back and adjust it. Lots of digital help, and also the printouts were essential. We had them taped on the wall. We had them taped on the lift. We had them laid out on the tables. We had them everywhere. And then we had regular meetings with her studio representatives. So they would come in and give some feedback. And then also we were able to check in with Mary, and she could see what was going on. Mary seemed really happy, which of course made me very happy and my team. That space is amazing, right? These big, amazing windows. And there was one day about halfway through the installation when I noticed that the landscape from the painting, if you stood in the right spot in the room, the landscape from the painting melded with the line of the Hudson River almost perfectly. And it was such a cool moment to realize the curator picked the perfect painting to fit in this space because it really feels like you're totally surrounded by the work. The other cool moment was at the opening, which was the first time I'd seen the painting in the dark. And The reflection in the windows back at you, again, gives that same feeling of being inside the painting. I don't take credit for that. I owe that to the curator and to Mary. They obviously had a vision for that space and were able to anticipate how perfectly it was going to fit. And it's really sort of magical to be in that room in the day and in the night.